Hello, my fellow hunters, join me, and let me tattle a tale of great battles, dragons, weapons of titanic fury, the bringing low of two mighty races, the fires of war consuming, nearly burning as bright as those of hatred. This is the brink of extinction, and the tiny spark that rises from the ashes to one day become the Hunters Guild as we know it. Monster Hunter, well, is set post-apocalypse. Let's do this thing. So it all begins then a very long time ago with the Ancient Civilization, its true name lost to the annals of time, but what we do know is that it was vast, it was mighty, and above all, advanced, capable of working with materials from metals that we no longer know how to recreate, to creating entire structures using Crescella as, well, cement. They really knew how to get the most out of a corpse. Like, they really got a lot out of corpses. Though they tended to not mention that at parties. They invented the Dragonator, the Switch Axe, the Charge Blade, the Gun Lance, all the real heavy-duty weapons that make you go, hang on, if we could make, like, folding mechanical explosion swords, why are we hitting things with a big bone on a stick? Firstly, no you talk bad big bone stick. And secondly, they're quite rare. You don't get armies wielding charge blades because the bulk of them come from relic finds that are refurbished and made fit for battle, the rust removed, and what little broken machinery there is fixed. And on top of that, it takes skills of incredible smiths of incredible skills. That way round, to repair them, let alone upgrade them and make them from scratch. Demand is high and supply is low. And yet, technically speaking, canonically, it would make the more explosive, fancy, switchy, futuristic-y weapons the most powerful, but that's a whole kettle of fish that I don't plan on diving into, because I wouldn't fit in a kettle and it would fucking hurt. But the point remains is that these guys, much like Stacy's mum, had it going on. Hell, they had such intimate knowledge of the animals and nature around them that they tamed them, rode them into battle, and had them as pets. They knew the biology so closely that any scrap of information we find detailing a monster that still exists gives us incredible advantages against it. They even have records on monsters that we've never encountered to this day. However, this of course has an ending involving a lot of blood and screaming. One day, the, let's say, science department went for a little bit of a, let's not ask if we should, but if we can. You know, all these elder dragons and wyverns were hunting for various experiments and use, you know, and like, yeah, we know them. Well, I've got an idea. Let's combine their powerful flesh with our indomitable technology in an unholy fusion that will give birth to a ginormous sentient cyborg dragon where the more it bleeds, the stronger it gets as the ultimate bioweapon. Now that you mention it, why the hell not? And thus the Pact of Evil was created, for to create new life requires the sacrifice of many others.
This is the law of equivalent exchange.
But, needless to say, the monster parts required were hefty, so how did this play out? Well, let me break it down for you. Humanity thought it would be fun to see, to combine biology and science to create a monstrosity in stark defiance of the natural law, using 100 dragon corpses or more. But they saw the error of their ways over next few days as the dragons fought back tit for tat, and they saw before them an all-consuming war over this forbidden act. You know, me enjoying rapping and sneaking it into videos is like someone who races enjoying stabbing themselves in their own foot and likes to sneak that in the middle of the run. Either way, the monstrosity that was created is known as the Equal Dragon Weapon. It's alive! It's alive! Or the Wyvern Machine Soldier. absolutely humongous and powerful beyond measure. It could cut a swath through dragons on the battlefield. But the thing is, the dragons didn't appreciate over 100 of them butchered to make, well, one science project, and thus banded together and waged a war to wipe out humanity. But this was the ancient civilization. They were equipped for this, or so they thought. The ensuing conflict lasted years and was brutal, resulting in a cruel Pyrrhic victory for both sides, with the dragons almost extincting themselves in the effort, and the ancient civilization crumbled and scattered to the winds near dust. The world was reset, the dominant species reduced to mere dregs. It was time for life to flourish anew. And yeah, the Equal Dragon weapon is interesting because it's only mentioned once in an art book long ago, and a lot of people consider it not to be canon, a lot of people do. The thing is, we know the ancient civilization existed, we know the Great Dragon War happened, and the Equal Dragon weapon is the perfect catalyst for that war, so I very much choose to buy into it, but you can interpret it a few ways. Either way, during this war, Fatalis came along, wiped out Trade. There's a whole list of goodies to get into, but that's not the focus of this video. What is we fast forward and life begins anew. Humans reset technologically, start to advance once again, and they stumble across the Wyverians. Now these are the little guys that are essentially wyvern human hybrids. They got the claw features and scales on their skin. They come in various sizes but are normally tiny. They live for hundreds of years, generally more intelligent than humans, a lot of them stronger. They're a pretty prolific race. They live peacefully alongside humans and share their knowledge. They became the first hunters once again. Living in harmony with nature, they would take what they needed and live in their secluded forest societies. But humans met them, learnt from them, got taught ancient hunting ways, and eventually banded together over a while and formed the Hunters Guild. The Hunters Guild is a colossal body governing the entire civilized monster world, and it, well, has a lot of responsibility. But before we talk about the guild then, hunters, why are they so darn good at researching? And by researching, I mean murderizing. Well, there's three chief theories when it comes to this, because there's no definitive answer, but you essentially choose the one that you like, right? So, number one is Chosen One. Kind of boring, right? The other one then, number two, is they are just exceptionally rare, skilled, strong, but technically normal humans. Lore-wise, only one hunter per generation reaches the dizzying acclaim of being able to slay an Elder Dragon. So, you know, the hordes of us killing them in scores on the quick isn't too accurate. It is an incredible feat. For a normal hunter, just bringing down something like a Baroth gets them respect. The majority handle fairly easy, low risk, low rank quests. You get a group that are able to start doing high rank stuff, but there's a reason it's such a crisis when a powerful Elder Dragon does go on the offensive or clash with humanity, because finding a group of hunters able to handle the situation is, well, bloody difficult. The third one then, and the one that I think is the most fun to subscribe to, is modern hunters, or at least the ones that are capable of taking on Elder Dragons. So the player are descendants of a very special breed of ancient civilization hunter. You see, the ancient civilization needed a lot of men on the ground to fight off swarms of Elder Dragons. If only one in a generation can do it now, that's not really enough to fight a war against them, even with all the Dragonators in the world. So, what do? Well, you have the ability to combine Elder Dragon energy and power with your own flesh-based technology. Why not super soldier up your hunters? And it is indeed very possible and likely that we had ancient civilization hunters being enhanced by both this bioweapon technology and the Elder Dragon essence itself. So the theory goes that modern day hunters, the ones that rise to the heights the players do, are ones where that carries strong, where the history, their descendants were these powerful hunters, and that is coming out in them once more, born out through the awakening of battle. And I think that's pretty darn cool, right? I mean, if I had to put money, I'd go with It's Just Chosen One. But like, Elder Dragon tech-infused descendants of super hunter soldiers? Yeah, I'll take that. There is also the hidden fourth option of the Monster Hunter world being a very low-gravity planet compared to Earth. That's why we don't take fall damage, why monsters can get so large, but there's only really gameplay evidence and nothing slightly in the lore to support it, so I mean, it's as valid as any others, really. It really is up to interpretation here. So, we get to the Hunters Guild then, which I think is definitely worth mentioning as, well, we already have touched upon it, is a pretty interesting organization. It's not bloodthirsty wipe out all monsters. You see, humanity very much learnt its lesson from the Elder Dragon War and seeks to work with nature. Or maybe the judge, jury, and executioner of it, but it's definitely a step up from we are the masters of all. If I want a dragon pet, I'm gonna have a dragon pet. Hell, I'm gonna have dragon slaves, because I'm an Ancient Civilization member. So, the Hunters Guild, then, for the most part, is pretty good. It wants to maintain some sort of order. It only ever really hunts things for two main reasons. The thing in question is causing a problem, or it needs researching, and a lot of the times those things overlap. So let's say you're a random punter and you've got a problem with an Anjanath in your backyard. It injured itself, and in its pain it's thrashing about and it keeps destroying through your livestock and your shed. You go to the Hunters Guild in your town, your local representative, and you go, look, I've got an Anjanath problem, and they're like, alright, give me details. So you give them details, and then they go, yeah, alright, that does need putting down. We'll file your request, we'll assign some hunters, and we'll get that sorted out for you, sir. Then the guild will form up the request, they will do an appropriate reward for it, and appropriately star it, so the hunters going are just right. They don't want to waste the two skilled hunters, but they don't want to send two inexperienced ones to their death, so that's what their hunter rank system is essentially for, and they'll put it on the board, and some of the hunters will be like, oh cool, I'll go bob off and take an Anjanath. And that's the quest process, that's how they appear. Sometimes the guild themselves will put a quest, normally if there's a huge threat, like a majorly powerful Elder Dragon has been sighted, or there is a calamity, something like Gormagala, it desperately needs capturing and researching, this frenzy virus is threatening to destroy us all. The guild will step in and go, we are calling all hunters, we need help, we need this fixed, and then they'll give an appropriate quest again for it. But you know, that's kind of how it works. They're also very much into population control. They don't want one species to wipe out another, which you can kind of argue is the whole judge, jury, executioner thing. It's a bit medley, right? It's not letting the natural order of things go down, which is a bit interesting when you consider their logo. Each one of these symbols represents a core belief, a foundation of the post-war human society, the very principles the guild and the hunters believe in and follow, or at least should. The North, respect for nature. The West, life as a community. The South, crafting from nature. The East, prosperity from nature. The Center, steal nature's shit. One of those might be made up. Now, admittedly, the gameplay doesn't construe this that much, but look, hunts don't actually happen that often. Again, it has to be justified, such as Zenoga, the lightning thunder wolf. It got displaced from its mountain home by a beautiful elder dragon that I'll talk about at some point, and suddenly there was a swarm of Zenoga wrecking shops. The Hunters Guild suddenly was flooded with requests to hunt them, so they needed culling to keep things under control, not wipe out all of them, but at least make the situation safe, and they respond to crisis like that. Now the thing is, the hunters guilds that are in each town, the main one, the core, the headquarters, are in Dundorma, which is the town from Monster Hunter 4, and it is quite the impressive location. Constantly assaulted by elder dragons, it's got a dragonator to help repel, and that's definitely always a concern. A lot of it's destroyed. There is ancient civilization ruins here. Part of the city is just a shell of its former self, but they're currently in the process of rebuilding it into quite the fortress capital. Either way, the Hunters Guild is full of bureaucracy. There is paperwork, licensing, documentation. You have to obey the rules. Anyone going outside of their jurisdiction, well, they are summarily hunted down and executed. If you want to go hunting without telling the guild, you're a poacher, and poachers, again, are hunted down and killed by the guild knights, essentially the enforcers of the guild. They also double up as town police that the guild has a presence in, and they make sure everything runs smoothly. Crime's not really a huge deal when your world's occupied by man-eating monsters at every corner. You kinda tend to band together at that point, though there's certainly a few little rogue bands, but that's more detail than we need to get into today. The Hunters Guild then does act as the main governing body of the world. There are armies stationed in major cities, and they are used to help the hunters do their job. Because really, there's not much in the way of wars to fight, because again, giant death monsters everywhere don't really want to be fighting each other. So what they will do is, say a monster is rampaging, they will send a regiment, and they will track it down and use mass numbers, long pikes, and force the creature into designated hunting grounds, because even the area that is hunted upon is restricted. Each guild has its own territory, as it were, and each one of these hunting grounds, by the way, is the map. That's why they're limited. That's why you're like, why can't I just go over there? Yes, gameplay limitations, visible wall, but at least lore-wise, because that's the border of where you're allowed to be hunting right now. Otherwise, things get a little bit tense. So the army will rally the monster and make it flee, poke at it. They can't kill it. They're not strong enough. They're not skilled enough. That's what hunters are for. They need them to step up and do it. They are a requirement in this world. Hunters are the celebrities. They do a job that most people won't step up to do because the survival rate isn't great. Most hunters take on very small challenges. But yeah, once the army has corralled the monster, usually losing a few of them, into the area, the hunter or hunters are let loose. Interesting tidbit, the reason you have a 4-man party and not anymore is because once there was quite the threat from an elder dragon, a party of 5 went to do it, and it was a horrible disaster, a massacre. Only 1 returned, and since then having 5 or more is seen as a bad omen, so that's why you don't get 50 hunters surrounding something and poking it to death, though I'm still convinced that would absolutely be fine. Lastly, the guilds can be quite jealous of what they found out. They sort of lock off their research from other guild bases. Despite it all being one organization, they like to play favorites with themselves. For example, the guild that first discovered Devil Joe didn't tell any of the other guilds about him. So the other guilds, when suddenly this rampaging T-Rex eater of worlds wiping out ecosystems and just fucking their shit up, it's like, what the hell? And then the other guild's like, oh yeah, that's Devil Joe, what do you think? You knew about this fucker? Oh yeah, we found him like a couple months back. We had to dispatch him. Like, the hunters, really, they had to go, you think? Thanks for the fucking heads up! And, you know, it's not sometimes the most camaraderie-filled environment, but it gets the job done. Essentially, then, the Hunters Guild is all about just maintaining a balance in the world. They don't want too many monsters, they don't want another disaster, but they don't want to anger them too much. They just want to protect the people, but they do want to research, they capture monsters. Most captured monsters either get destroyed in their sleep, the organs harvested and researched, released into the arena for entertainment or further research, or released back into the wild to be observed. And I guess it comes down to the Hunters Guild are dedicated to going, okay guys, look, everything is sort of working. You know, humanity is flourishing again. We have a few troubles with monsters, but, you know, for the most part, things seem to be okay. Let's keep everything how it is. And that's what they do. They want to achieve that balance. Thanos would be pleased. So, I hope you enjoyed this then, guys. There is a lot more to talk about, a lot more about the war, that could be a whole episode, a lot more about the guild, I can talk about the Wyverian Academy, the Elder Dragon Observation Team, the Royal Paleontology, the Research Association that we're part of in Monster Hunter World. There is a lot going on here, and it's a really well thought out system, but that's kind of a primer, a TLDR of the Monster Hunter World, a brief history, if you will. Let me know if you liked it, subscribe if you did, and I'll see you very soon. Share it around. A lot goes into these, and it does make me happy to talk about this game that I love so damn much. My name has been Josh. I'll see you oh so very soon. Goodbye.
Rage Gaming with the video flow.
But that's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you even though